To answer the question, I'll need to walk you guys through these 5 variables. In terms of learning, for a CS degree, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. It's going to give you a lot of general knowledge. It's going to round you out as a developer, but it's also going to give you knowledge about software engineering and other stuff that isn't really as relevant to web development, so it's not a 10 out of 10 for that reason. Coding Bootcamp, it's going to be more targeted, but it's not as practical in the long run. I've heard a lot of negative reviews about Coding Bootcamp, so I'm only going to give it a 6 out of 10. In theory, it could be better than CS degree, but it's only 8 to 12 weeks long, so there's only so much you can learn in that time period. For self-taught, you're going to get spot on learning. You're going to learn real skills. It's going to be a lot better than the other two. That's why I gave it an 8 out of 10. In theory, if you learn properly, you should learn real website building skills over just a lot of theory that you might learn in the other two. So this is going to give you the best hands-on experience. What about cost? For a CS degree, I'm going to be honest, it's bullshit pricing, and it's going to absolutely cripple your wallet. I think the pricing of degrees is completely inflated compared to the actual value. For web dev specifically, software engineering is a different story, but for web dev, a degree is going to be completely not worth it in terms of pricing alone. The pricing is horrible, and I don't know how people pay that much to go to college. For a coding bootcamp, it's going to have fairer pricing, and the return on investment can be justified if you're thinking about it as like a cheaper CS degree. So I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. It's still going to cost you a little bit of money, but it's probably going to be a lot better than a CS degree in terms of pricing. For self-taught, it's going to be free or it's going to be less than $50 a month. 10 out of 10, this is going to cost you absolutely nothing to do, price-wise alone. For speed, CS degree, it's going to be a slower investment. That's why I gave it a 3 out of 10, because it's going to take you 4 years, if not more, to actually complete your degree. In that time, you could argue that you could be getting progress in literally anything else and advancing your career, because after all, once you get your job, you're basically set career-wise. So this is a slow investment to actually get that first job, but if you're willing to put the time in, I feel like it could pay off in the long run, especially for Ivy League. For normal colleges, it's going to be a little lower. For coding bootcamp, this is like 8 to 12 weeks if you go full-time, maybe 20 weeks if you go part-time. It's quick and paced. It's going to be a 7 out of 10. This is a really fast option in terms of like a CS degree, but quicker. So this is a good option if you're low on time or you just want to get more targeted. For self-taught, it's going to be a lot quicker than the other two if you are disciplined and motivated. 8 out of 10 if you know what you're doing. But if you're not following a very good plan, or you're not very consistent, or you're just not spending too much time in a day, it can be a lot longer and the score might drop a lot more at that point. But if you know what you're doing and you're consistent, 8 out of 10. For accountability, a CS degree, it's going to have strict deadlines. Your life is going to be just about learning. I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10 because all you're going to be doing or focused on is learning in a college class or a college semester. If you're doing some sort of online class, it might be a little different. But if you're on campus and you're learning in a classroom, you're going to have a lot more accountability from people around you and your professors. For coding bootcamps, deadlines do exist, and you're going to have strict outlines for when to get stuff done, but it is easy to drop out of it or just kind of stop doing it because you don't have in-person accountability. It's more just kind of deadlines on an online computer. So not as high, but I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 because technically it is still accountability to a degree. For self-taught, this is going to be a rough reality of self-teaching. It's all on you. It's very easy to fall off if you're not consistent. No one's there to tell you to actually, work on the code. No one's telling you when to get stuff done. You're going to have to be disciplined. You're going to have to stay consistent. For hireability, a CS degree is very attractive to employers, huge network opportunities, and you're going to leak code as learning as you go through the programs. This is going to be a 9 out of 10 because CS students or graduates usually have a far easier time getting a job because CS degrees are basically just verification to employers saying, okay, this guy probably knows what he's doing. Is that true? Probably not. I would argue that a lot of CS people who graduate are not actually as dedicated or disciplined as someone who is self-taught. But in terms of just, looking good to employers, a CS degree is going to get you hired a lot quicker. For a coding bootcamp, bootcamps aren't very credible. From what I can tell, a lot of people don't recommend them if you're trying to get hired. You will get some decent interview prep, so that could work out in your favor, but it's going to be a 6 out of 10 because it's not the most credible thing in the world. For self-taught, it's going to be harder to prove that you know what you're doing. You're going to need a lot of projects to back that up as well. You get how it might look something like this at the end of the process. So I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. Not to say it's impossible, but it's going to be harder than a CS degree or bootcamp. So for the final verdict, ultimately, all paths lead to Rome. All of these paths will get you to a job. You just have to pick the right vessel for you. Each one is going to be a different situation. You can pick one that works for you, but all of them will get you a job if you go through them fully. If you want to land a job quickly, I do have an online community that I opened recently where I help new people get a job and find other developers like them who are also trying to get a job. If you're interested in that, there's a link in the description. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video.